obsessed with me.
Who I smoke, Lil Leaky. Who I smoke, Big Meaty. Who I smoke, Lil 2, 3 Wonder.
Why are you so obsessed with me?
I was so moved. This is how audiences must have felt when they first saw Olivier play Hamlet. Oh, bravo, boys and girls. Bravo. Except for you. You were god-awful.
Full disclosure, news and commentary number 147, 147, 147, 147, 147. It's really, really early in the morning, so you can tell I'm a touch punchy. Got my straight out of Hogwarts shirt for Florida. It's cold, but here I am delivering. I'm going to be out the house for quite some time today. So I'm going to try to get this full disclosure done, and then I'm going to try to get Platinum Pinfall done. It's looking good. It looks like I'm going to be able to because I got up early enough. But yeah, I work from 8 in the morning till midnight tonight. So it's quite a time. Here's something we haven't done in a long time. An unboxing, and I've got two different things. One thing that's a shirt, I'm sure, and one thing that's not a shirt, I'm sure. How are you? I hope you have a great week. I managed to get out my Platinum's Wrestle Feast covering the 9 shows of the week. Georgia Wrestling History is looking real good. If you haven't checked that out, you need to. gwhnewsandnotes.blogspot.com. All right. I haven't done this in a while, but how this works is I show you at the same time that I get to witness it as well. I'm curious what this is. Bam! Oh! I got here a little bit late, but it's adorable. Here's Santa. An obvious reference to The Shining, and I love it. Here's the other one. Looking like a rat chewed the crap. Blah, 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 blah. No return. Oh, the good thing is I can do that. Oh, the muscles. Are you impressed? Ooh. Catch as Catch Can won the tournament. Dude! This is Drew Blood's book. I'm very excited because I have to say again, you know, I did enjoy the Tony Schiavone, which I still have up here, Butts and Seats, for what it was. Problem was, it was a comic, which had its own merits, but at the end, I was disappointed content-wise. But this, we're going to see what's up with this. I know exactly when, okay, I'm already committing to this. I'm going to say it out loud, so I have to do it. I'm going to write a review as well as do a video review. And I'll get it done this weekend at the latest. Steve, why do you say stuff like that? Now you're committed to... But the book, let's read the back, shall we? I don't think that's too much of a spoiler. Welcome to Livings, Arizona. Montana Smith arrives for the huge wrestling tournament and the $1,000 prize. Oh, this is awesome. Along the way, he must confront greedy land barons, world-class wrestlers, nosy town folk, and love. Can Montana overcome the odds and prevail? Find out in Catch Can number 1, the tournament. Number 1. I mean, this could be the first story of many. Even better. Drew Blood Bannon spent 16 years as a professional wrestler. He was mildly successful. This is his first... No! I love it. Don't spoil it. So that's happening this week. Excited. Drew, thank you for sending me the book. I won't let you down. I'm going to get that report written. Book report. I'm going to get the review written and a video done for it. Very exciting. All right, let's jump in. Let's jump in, baby. Let's jump in. So, and by the way, if you'd like to send me anything, a reminder as always, my post office box is down below. People are always very generous. You know, I took a little break after Christmas because people sent me so many things around Christmas time. I did a Christmas opening and all of that. So really great to see. Reports. Here are the reports that are up, right? Rob Rod wrote a thing about Zicky Dice's Outlandish Paradise report, or show. Duke Ingram followed with notes about that show. Larry wrote about the Terminus Wrestling show. We had notes for Puerto Rico, Lucha Libre, and Southeastern news. Wow. We have this video from Bryce Cannon's attorney about Platinum Championship Wrestling. I'm going to do some kind of reaction to that for sure. What? You have Rob Rod telling you what shows are coming up for the weekend. You have a photo of a day. Dude, the sense of humor on Larry is super underrated. Jabari McIntyre, my man, sending in notes on Terminus as well. He says notes, but it's really a nice little review here. So you have somebody else send in a report that's new? How is this thing? I haven't looked at it. It's freaking good. Dude, don't sleep on Georgia wrestling history, man. It's so good. APW, 58, okay. Still building those stars. Still training dudes. Still making it happen. Dynamic Dexter on top at APW. I see his name popping up on Anarchy all the time. Action Report. Dude. Action IWTV Southeastern First Report from Tyrone on January 21st. Now, I covered the utter Roman triumph of this event on Platinum Pinfall. And thank you to the people who continue to sign up to Patreon to see it. Again, Patreon information is below. Really, really great event. I cannot describe. I'm going to go into a little more detail here on a couple people were curious because in my discussions about Action, I mentioned that Southern wrestling just gets short shift compared to the wrestling in the Northeast and really suffers from this kind of like self-esteem. I'm just talking about Southern wrestling as a whole, has always suffered from this sort of self-esteem of a lack of coverage, a lack of favorable comparison to the Northeast. And I didn't know what could be done about it. Is the answer become like wrestling in the Northeast? Is the answer, what's the answer? The answer, I think, is a combination of a couple of things. But first and foremost, I think it's Action Wrestling. I think Action Wrestling being a promotion in and of itself, not having charity tie-in to rely on getting a crowd. When you look at the crowd that was there for that show, and some would try to foolishly argue that it's because of the other shows that were represented on that card. I don't think that's it. I think that they created an atmosphere where people clearly wanted to see if AC Mack could beat Alex Shelley for that title. I think they've created an atmosphere where their own fan base rallied and showed up because they sensed that this was going to be a big deal. I think that they did a phenomenal job of hitting all areas of promotion. I heard a ton about this show. I heard a ton about it on the IWTV end. I saw a ton about it on Facebook and things like that. I heard about this show, and we cannot underestimate how important that is. When you have people telling me, I'm here in Tyrone for the first time and I see posters for the show everywhere. So they're hitting every aspect of promotion. They're promoting and they are actively doing it. I saw a thing where Gary Lamb was a smartass, not a shock, to Rob Rod, because Rob Rod mentioned, like, you know, there's a lot of awards that this show could get consideration for, and then Gary said, "Oh, I noticed you didn't say, you know, Southern Honor, or you didn't say for promotion of the year or promoter of the year." And then Rob Rod had a little back and forth, and he said "good boy" to Rob Rod in a patronizing way. But the first thing that I heard from other people that were at the show was Matt Griffin should be promoter of the year because of the good job that he did. So congratulations to everybody involved, especially AC Mack. Just really fantastic. And it's great. Like I said, it's great to see Rob Rod there with the clicker telling us the crowd numbers as accurately as possible. Pro South Wrestling Report. Larry didn't care for the production of the show. He's been effusive in his praise of the improving Pro South production, but this one was they had obviously main computer crashing and huge level problems. But the show itself, amazing. And Nauseacism and Rob Killjoy killing it. Again, what can you say? Seeing Nauseacism and Rob Killjoy and guys that have been around a minute and really view this thing as an art form and bring it there. And Nick Halen, another guy that I will not fail to mention, and just about anybody I ever even remotely got to train. Just seems like they're absolutely killing it right now. And it's wonderful to see. I got a report about GCW. Of course, GCW had its big show at the Hammerstein Ballroom, which, by accounts of people that I trust that were there, it ranged from that was the greatest show to the middle of that show kind of sucked. The consensus is that ICW absolutely murdered their show, that their show was fantastic. But the weirdest thing that I got from somebody was that GCW didn't have close to the crowd that they were claiming, which I found to be like, oh, because like I said, I knew at least two people who were at that show and one person who was on that show who was kind of sending me reports. So I was like, oh my gosh, the GCW crowd isn't what they're claiming that is. I'm like, it was sold out. How could it be anything but what they were claiming? And then I saw where they said they had 100, they had 60, and I just went, Hammerstein Ballroom got a little shrunk. Somebody put the Hammerstein Ballroom obviously in the dryer, and it shrunk. And then I went, oh, and then I figured out myself, I guess they're talking about another league. And then I saw on Georgia Wrestling History that GCW, Georgia Championship Wrestling, sent in a report. Okay, I can't believe that this is becoming a thing. Look, if you're sending in a report because your show that didn't get covered by Rob Rod or whatever, or Duke Ingram, or Larry, or apparently Jabari, or Charles Felder, or Jeff Richards, or the the legion of people who are covering shows. If you think that means you can bullshit your crowd, you're crazy. All right, look at this. There's a picture from their show. What is interesting, and we'll see if we do this. I just watched Blade Runner with the kids, so I'm going to do this. Enhance. Look at that, as I'm going to look at it now. Dude, look at the first row. 1, 2 empty seats, 3 occupied seats, 4 empty seats, 6 occupied seats. So they've got, out of 10 chairs, 4 of them are unoccupied. 1, 2, I'll just count the people in the front row that are there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 people I can spot in this picture. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 empty seats. Stop lying, bitches! You don't got no 100. 60 might be calling it generous. Hell, I'm going to call it 50. Dude. All right, we got to talk about this. People exaggerate their crowds, okay? I have to be realistic, right? People are going to tend to round up a little bit. And you could argue that 60 rounded up is 100. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking, you give yourself the 5%, you give yourself a 10%, you give yourself 12.73%, oh, whatever. You can't Buddy Rose that shit. Just like he, tried to call 287 218. You can't go the other way. And dude, it's a lie. It's just a lie. So to look at that picture, and I mean, you got people on your show like Scott Hudson and stuff. Like, don't make him look like shit, man. Don't make him look like shit. If you've got on 2 sides of the ring 11 people, and there's 4 sides to the ring. In fact, extrapolating off of this picture, I would say you had 22 people there. So I'm going to call it 22. We've gotten so good, and a lot of this is people going out and doing reports, but part of this is just leaning on motherfuckers. If you want to be at the party, the price of entering the party is to be honest. And if somebody who was at GCW and worked that show want to tell me what the crowd really was, I would appreciate it. But bitch, stop lying. Bitch, stop lying. Anarchy Wrestling Report. Goodman got his up. I've heard that Duke Ingram is also going to put his up. That is cool. That is cool. A little over 100 people. And by the way, I'm curious. I'm going to look at that picture. Yeah, look at that. That's actual people there. I bet they had more people that were in the picture that's on gwhnewsandnotes.blogspot.com than GWH actually had at their show. But again, just leagues are off and running. They're off and running. They are off and running. But yeah, GWH, as it continues to grow and more people are beginning to watch and they're using their Twitter, and I see here that they shared that GCW report. I'm going to tell Larry, if people are lying about shit, just pull their report that they sent in themselves. Because that's a trust, right? That's us helping to promote you. So all you got to do is just not lie. All you got to do is just not lie. It's time for the commentary. What is our commentary about? In a word, our commentary is about relationships. And the precarious nature of when to establish contact, when to seemingly acquiesce to something, when to attempt to take down your enemies, when to realize that the relationship that people have with you have changed, etc., etc., etc. And I'll go into specific examples, right? And it's about integrity, and it's about not losing yourself. So, boy, I didn't know that this is what I was going to talk about, but here I'm just going to dive in, right? So a number of people sent me this item. I wouldn't call it a news item. It's sort of like rumor mill, like salacious grist for the mill kind of stuff. So there's a wrestler of great note, and I will say somebody who, upon meeting them, I liked right away, who I had heard nothing but great things about as far as in-ring goes, as far as who they were as a person, just great stuff, right? But they got involved in a relationship, and it definitely went sour. And when it went sour, details about this relationship came out that were very salacious, and it cast this person in a really bad light. Now, will this affect their wrestling career? I suspect it already has. If nothing else, I think perception-wise, it has hurt them, and now it comes out that quite possibly the league that they're involved with, which is not a league in Georgia, is not a Georgia league, but definitely close by, that there was a culture of that place where the person who runs it sort of encouraged this culture of basically scummy behavior. As Larry put it best, is it slimy or is it criminal? And it's definitely on the slimy end, but it is heavily on the slimy end. And now these things are coming to light. And then there's people that I respect who normally take one position, but because this wrestler is involved with them, all of a sudden, this notion of I believe her goes out of the window. And it's troubling. It's troubling to see how different people are. You hear about how different people are handling this, because, again, part of relationships and part of wrestling is here's another big word: sacrifice. People talk about sacrifice, but really, the test of integrity is what somebody is truly willing to sacrifice, right? That's when you see what people are really willing to give up. Sacrifice. I can only speak for myself and PCW. There have been many instances where somebody of immense talent and immense import to Platinum Championship Wrestling and to myself personally have fucked up, and fucked up in pretty major ways. I handled everything on a case-by-case. I believe in handling everything on a case-by-case. I don't believe in lumping anybody in or just blanket sentencing. But, having to kick people out or temporarily not have them there, which ended up blowing up into a much longer thing of them not being there. And it hurt PCW. But I would investigate and make my own decisions and consult people that I respected, and ultimately make the decisions that I made to preserve the integrity of PCW, but also for myself as a person. I couldn't reward certain kinds of behavior. And trust me, as crazy as you think your locker room is in the modern time, PCW was crazier. Right? Way crazier. Right? If you wanted the best weed, you came to PCW. But that didn't mean guys got high before their matches. No, right? Didn't mean that guys got high in the building and cost me venues. No. Didn't mean. And we had a lot of women in our locker room. Um, Unlike you mammy rammers nowadays. We had women in different positions of authority too. We had a woman who ran Gorilla. We had, all over the place, helping with this, that, and the other. And of course, inevitably, these are young people, and a lot of them are going to want to date and all that kind of stuff. And there were times where people were inappropriate, and I would deal with it accordingly. But we had definitely a raucous atmosphere, like led by yours truly. I really believe that leagues are a reflection of the people that run them if they're truly running them. And if it's true that this promotion, which was not in Georgia again, is taking their cues from up top of who's seriously running things, not just figureheads and not just people who aren't. We know the difference between who's running shit and who's not. You really take your cues, people who are in charge, promoters, bookers, locker room leaders. They're taking their cues from you. This gets back to relationships. And really, what kind of precedent are you setting? Are you a locker room leader that's a whiner and bitcher and a moaner? Or are you somebody that actually tries to get stuff done? I see promoters and bookers who are more or less handling their stuff. And I think Georgia wrestling has improved and is a reflection of that. I think Action shows that. If you look at the shows from the weekend, right? Action, Anarchy, you look at Matt Hankins, promoter. I mean, not promoter. Booker, mentor, manager of the year. Stuff is nailed down. Stuff is nailed down. Doesn't mean you can't learn. Doesn't mean you can't improve. I thought the note of, hey, Anarchy, why don't you tell us at least one match that's going to happen, is a great note. Sure. Beyond that, though, there's an import and an import. What? It's early. To establishing a culture in the locker room. And that's the last major word. Relationship, right? Sacrifice and culture. What is the culture of your locker room? I could see how IWE's culture has improved. I've never heard a word said about certain promotions in their culture, which tells me a lot. That means it's a show that the boys go and do and maybe enjoy, maybe not, but it doesn't make an impression on them. And then there's the shows nowadays where I hear about what goes on, who really runs things, who doesn't really run things, and the effect that that has on the whole. I thought one of the coolest things about Action and how I knew that that show was going to be set off and go well was the early reports were there are so many wrestlers here that aren't involved directly in the show. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. My name is Blassie, King of Men. Only about 4 of you got that reference. It's fine. Shit, I had that album. Holy crap. When the boys want to be around your show that aren't booked on the show, it means you're doing something right. Because it's about them wanting to be part of something bigger and have a relationship. It's not always about them being booked on that show, though that factors in. But it's a nice symptom that something is going on that's interesting culturally. And my caution is to the groups for whom it is going well, which is the majority of them, which is wonderful. My caution is this: don't sacrifice who you are for this thing called wrestling. Let who you are as a good person change the parts of wrestling that you affect instead of the other way around. And success is a bigger test than struggle. And now we're seeing groups attain a real level of success. And we're seeing certain groups that have had success faltering. Because it is as big a litmus test as anything. So that is my warning and caution to the groups that have achieved success, especially lately, of note. When you're winning, it solves all problems. But later on, the decisions that you make when it's going well will determine what happens when things inevitably dip a little bit. How big is that dip going to be? If you don't have the integrity with which to hold things together, that's when things really begin to fall apart. A person that I was particularly interested in that was at the action show was Dylan Freimeyer. And you could see that he was genuinely happy for AC Mack, and that he was there in part because Southern Honor was represented on that show, but I don't get the feeling that that's the reason he was there. I think it was surface level the reason he was there. But Dylan, and I really saw that in that picture, is one of the boys, right? Definitely more one of the boys than one of the office. But he's caught in this weird flux and trying to figure it out and trying to figure out what's appropriate to sacrifice. And I think it's a fascinating struggle. But something tells me this is the year that he figures it out. And sometimes people figure out, I'm not talking about Dylan specifically, but just in general, that their relationship with wrestling needs to change. Some people get the fuck out. Some people admit that they're fans. Some people decide that they don't want to be in the office anymore. Some people decide they have more fun as a wrestler. Some people decide that they're ready to transition to a bigger role. Some people organically become locker room leaders, and some people want to force the issue. And sometimes both of those things work, and sometimes both of those things fail spectacularly. But at the end of the day, as I've said to more than one wrestler, and I tend to say this to the wrestlers that would be reticent about interacting with everybody, that wrestling is social. And it's not just about trying to get yourself bookings and establishing a good relationship and all that stuff, but it's way more than that. It's about making sure that your ability to connect with other people is established and heightened. If you're not learning how to do that in the course of wrestling, I don't know what to tell you. Now, this last crop of winners for the Georgia Wrestling History Awards, what was incredible is you had more than one person saying, someone needs to take this from me, right? Joe Black, very, very great speech, one of my favorites, said basically, okay, I won this twice. Which one of you young guys is going to motherfucking take this thing from me? And AC Mack very early has said, I am. And I think that's great. That shows, that's not Joe Black just being a locker room leader. That's Joe Black being a leader, period. Sacrifice is, I'll give up this crown because the greater good is that there's other people doing it. It's not about because I'm going to move on. It's someone take this thing from me. Tells me a lot. Tells me a lot about growth. Tells me a lot about individual sacrifice. Tells me a lot. So, what you gonna do? What you gonna do? What you gonna sacrifice? Where are you gonna really sacrifice? What are your goals? How are you going to get there? There's groups that I'm helping out right now on the down low who I'm just like, what are your goals? How are you going to get there? What are you going to do? GIPW, by the way, had a show as well. And the people who were there reporting to Larry and then indirectly to me about that show was like the crowd was disappointing, though it's bigger than it has been for them. But that Shalonce Royal wins, and so she's going to take on the NWA Women's Champ at their next show in February. And that show is pivotal to them. It's pivotal. I'll just say that to GIPW. They need a sizable crowd at that show. What are they going to sacrifice to get it? And are other people going to spend their resources and time to be there? We shall see. Go sacrifice. Go figure out what you want. And go figure out your relationship with this wrestling thing and the people involved in it. It's the difference between being a wrestling person and just a fan. So which one are you? This has been Full Disclosure.